If you can stop talking for 10 seconds, that would be fantastic. Right. You want to hit the start timer on there? You want to hit? You want to start podcasting, genius?
Smoke. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves. I hope we pass the audition.
Hey, Biff, what's the difference between a dollar and the pound?
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed to say it. I think I might know this joke, but I think the answer would be I can't pound your mother.
I don't know. No. I don't dollar your mother.
I can't dollar your mother. Yeah. I can't dollar your mother. I did it wrong, but I knew the joke. It's really sad that not only did I know the joke and then screw it up, and the whole thing is just, awful. Yeah. Just really perfect for our podcast. Really. Yeah. That is how this podcast should be. A fucking train wreck all throughout.
Well, okay, you might know this one too. Why do mermaids wear seashells?
Is this at all related to like the bathroom, in what is that, Demolition Man? It's not related to that, is it?
No.
Okay. No, I don't know why.
Because the B shells are too small and the D shells are too big.
Okay, sure. Oh, quite a sexualized mermaid. Poor Ariel. The new Ariel has enough bad press from all these racists, and now you have to pound that expectation on her. Great.
Hey, look, I agree. I think all mermaids should have D shells too. Anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. This is Jacques,
and this is Biff.
And we don't have Joe because Joe is doing the arduous task of, I say this with such heaviness in my heart, packing up the Lyceum. You've been to the Lyceum.
I have.
A
much better man cave than I've ever had. So
oh my God. The first 150 of these that we did, there and doing the blind, video game review. And like Joe's always like, I can't believe I have all this stuff. And we've had, authors and you and a Vernetsky and then our friend John Herstick, who's sold 2 companies in the last 20 years for a total like $800 million. And that guy walks into his house and he's like, this is the coolest thing ever.
I know, right? What's kind of ironic is that you of all people have the actual ability to have your own man cave, although. I mean, you have the ability to have a he cave and a she cave in your house, right?
Well, you've been to our house. Our house is a she cave.
But I mean, literally, what I'm saying is that to have that isolated she cave space and an isolated he cave space, you have enough room in your house.
We do, and we don't, except for the fact that we want to keep the 1 bedroom open. My office for guests. Renetsky was here for last week, but
right.
Yeah. But no, I'm also a pretty minimalist. But yes, I definitely could, but I don't want stuff. So sadly, Biff had grown up stuff to do.
You know what? It's not about stuff. It's about isolation.
No, look, I actually, we built this, we have this little shed that's probably 8 by 10 in the backyard that when we first moved here, we made the kids' game room, insulated. I had to work on stand-up the other day. I just went out there because one little guy was playing games in one room, one was in the other, screaming. And I'm like, no, I just got to get this new material down. So I did. So I'm
you could also do, you could also do the same thing that I do, which is that, I drive in my, beautiful Honda CRV and just, I could just cry my eyes out as I need to, and so could you in your beautiful Hyundai Santa Fe.
It's happened. It's happened more recently than I even want to get into. But I just recorded next week's sideshow with this guy named Mike Ragonia. So you've crossed paths with him. He's been at the same parties. But this is a guy who I've probably done 100 DVD titles for. He's the guy who walked into my office and said, "Hey, we're dropping Billy Ray next week, but we're contractually obligated to do a music video." And he played the friend card, and he played the, "Hey, we're your biggest client, and you kind of have to bail us out of this one card." And I'm like, "Dude, I haven't produced a music video in like 15 years." He goes, "Yeah, but you know how to do it." So
is this the one you appeared in?
No. This is the one the first one that we did that ended up. Long story short, Universal had an imprint label called Next Door, and if you were an artist of note who had an album that you recorded on your own and you just needed distribution, they will work out a distribution deal. So they're not going to pay for you to record. So the first three artists was Billy Ray, Tears for Fears, and I forget the third one. But the album didn't sell well. It didn't get the right backing.
In his defense, during that time, what album was selling?
No,
right?
it's true.
You had to be a monster artist, like a real monster artist, to sell albums, right?
So plus the deal. So the deal was, they had to do a video. I did a video. The video did. I pulled a fast one, and I went to Great American Country, and I said, "I'll give you this exclusively for 30 days before we send it to CMT." I knew that CMT wasn't going. CMT wasn't going to play it at the time, because at the time the head of programming, Billy Ray, were not friends. CMT lost their shit and said, "Oh my God, we'll give you an hour countdown to the world premiere of the video." So Billy goes out. It stayed number 3.
Nice work.
It stayed number 3 for like 2+ months. And the only reason it never got higher than number 3, it was Rascal Flatts' song from Cars.
Oh, yeah.
At the time. And
Underwood. The highway, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Underwood had like Jesus Take the Wheel or something like that. So those were number 1 and 2 for like 3 months. And Billy was like, number 3 behind that.
He just has a driver's license?
Right. You know what? Seriously. Anyways, I was going to make a bad joke that I would have made 20 years ago, but I'm growing. Anyways. So that goes so well. That video goes so well that they call like a month later. And in between then, Billy gets dropped by his manager, who was also Miley's manager, which was really weird, which was uncomfortable because they're on Hannah Montana together. Billy has to sign off on who her manager is, but the management company is still managing Miley, who's just ready to become Miley. She's still Hannah. She hasn't appeared as Miley yet in public at a concert or anything.
Right.
So he gets dropped by his label, dropped by his manager. The only thing going right is this video. It's number 3 on Great American Country. So that's when he's like, "Will you manage me?" And I'm like, "Look, I know hockey hair and mullets are the same. You got this song. You got the song called 'I Want My Mullet Back.' You've been ridiculed for having a mullet for 20 years, yet you write an ode to it." And I'm like, "Dude, the record company did you dirty. That should have been the single." And so I do. For $250, I shoot "I Want My Mullet Back" video. About 2 weeks later, he's doing the anthem at Mullet Night for the Phoenix Coyotes. Yep. And thus launched my career doing anthems.
That's something you could revisit, because the Phoenix Coyotes' current arena.
Yes,
about this?
the tiny one, the college arena.
Do you know what it's called?
I don't. What is it?
It's called the Mullet Arena.
Oh,
I can't believe you don't have a Mullet Arena mullet event with Billy Ray Cyrus.
Dude, I mean, I'll circle back to Billy Ray and say, "Do you want to do something?" Dude, that's great. But that was the first anthem that I did.
If you get that gig, I want in.
You're going.
I want to attend.
So this guy Mike, like, walked in my office, in like 99, 2000, when we're starting to do all the DVD things. He's a little older. He's a little odd. He's an odd duck, and instantly realizes, oh, this guy here is also an odd duck. And we became really good friends, really great friend. But through him, he ended up going to Capitol Records, and I ended up doing all this work for Capitol and meeting some huge artists. We talked on the podcast about some legendary, much like the guy Bob Mercer, who signed the Sex Pistols to EMI and who signed Queen, and I tell this Queen story that I got to have dinner with this guy, just the three of us.
Is that the same guy that was played by Mike Myers in the movie?
No, different guy.
Okay, that would have been awesome.
But this guy's great. This guy's fucking great. His name is Bob Mercer, and so he was great. And Mike, and he wrote this song.
So let's without dragging on too long.
No, it's
what
great.
I want to say is that what is there something that we could look forward to on that sideshow?
Yeah, a lot. He wrote a jingle for the New Jersey Devils in 1984. How's that?
That is okay.
That's
pretty awesome.
That
great story? All right,
yeah.
So to that.
He worked with Joni Mitchell for a while, and he used to take me to Joni Mitchell's, who was very guarded, and then he's like, "No, Jacques cool." She goes, "Oh, that's a hockey name. We play hockey." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh,
yeah, she's Canadian."
She goes, she goes from not wanting to get in the car because she didn't know who I was to telling me about her sexcapades with was John Davidson?
Sanderson.
Was John Davidson the goalie for the Rangers in the mid-70s? Yeah. She starts telling me these sex stories with John Davidson, and I'm like, why is it?
You know what? What's funny? I've run into John Davidson twice in the airport.
Oh, dude, that is funny.
If there is a third time, I'm gonna go up to him and ask him, "Hey, is there anything you could tell me about Joni Mitchell?"
So that will be great. So let's start the podcast on a complete shit show. Another podcast, another mass shooting. This time in your backyard.
Yeah.
Kind of directed at your people tangentially.
Well, yeah. So I can't remember the name of the dance club, but obviously, like, there's a mass shooting. I think at the last count, I wanted to say 10 dead and 10 additionally injured. And obviously, it was the story of the evening, such as it is. And it was at an event where I think it was a multi-day event celebrating the Lunar New Year. So I think people have seen all of the different, the Chinese New Year, Year of the Rabbit kind of stuff kind of going around in their areas. And so it's really tied to, that celebration. So it's kind of, so I think the rational side of me says, listen, it could very well be, a vendetta thing, kind of a thing, something personal to the owners of the, of the hall or organizers or something like that. It could be a very personal thing. But then, obviously the emotional side of me says that, this is the community where we actually had some incidents of, anti-Asian, hate incidents. So I'm thinking, okay, so so obviously I'm trying to, kind of, deal with both the rational aspect, but also with the emotional thinking that, this could be another, one of those incidents. So, and certainly so obviously very tough for that community. It is a primarily, it's a very heavily Chinese community. I think geographically much bigger than LA Chinatown. And I think it has a lot more, has a bigger Chinese and Chinese American population than Chinatown. So, obviously a huge blow to that community. So, just more than anything else, I hope for, a swift resolution, swift justice, all that stuff. But obviously, a lot of these things kind of go unsolved for extended periods of time. So and the longer we don't know what really was going on, it just kind of extends our.
It's scary,
it is an area that I go to eat at regularly, and I've taken many of my non-Chinese friends to that area to eat because the food is really good. So it's one of those things where it kind of takes out that kind of the fun in a lot of that kind of stuff, right? So
no, and it's like I've been insulated the last couple days because, like I said, Renetsky's been here. We went to and it's fun. We went to one of those. It's called Boda Borg. I think there's 20 different puzzles in there. It's an escape room place.
Okay, yeah.
And it's funny because on the way home, I was talking with management, and it's like, okay, if I had to pick like 4 friends to get a team, and who would your 4 friends be? And I was going through the list. I'm like thinking, all right, well, some of them are physical challenges. Some of them are like, almost like a trivial thing or like a detective. Like they're all different, and it's great. And it's like I was like, okay, well, I definitely would have Joe because there's so many puzzles I'm looking at thinking, yeah, Joe's going to come in here and Rain Man this. He's going to tell you how many matchsticks are on the floor instantly. I'm like Biff is going to figure out this. I'm like, John will figure out this. And I'm thinking, some of them are like physical things. It's like, all right, well, is it All-Star Tommy who's in good shape? Is it Scotty Black? I'm going down the list. I'm like, then I'm like, but Dan has an engineering degree, and there was some of these engineering things, and there's all these puzzles. So it was fun. So, but like I said, the last couple of days just been, crazy. It was a great trip. I mean, Renette was out here. Unfortunately, she couldn't get the time off, during like a Thanksgiving thing, and she was taking her care of her mom over Christmas. So she's out here with the boys in school, and it's like management is working, and it's like we spent a couple days playing Resident Evil together. Like she likes games.
There you go.
So we just did that, But it's funny because, it's one of those things where, I'm so happy that management and her. For the last 15 years, it's not my friend. It's our friend. In most cases, to be honest, it's now her friend more than my friend. Like they did a girls' night out with a couple other management's friends, and it was one of those places where you could go and do painting and drink wine, an art thing.
Sure, yeah.
She's had a blast. She,
good.
With our oldest kid, who she has an amazing relationship with, they just went out for breakfast, just them, and then she did some stuff with our little guy, but it was great. But that was fun. So I've been busy then I look at the news and I'm like, oh fuck, not in the backyard. But
obviously that happened overnight. So
and then where I see where it is, and I'm thinking, I know where it is. So like I kind of, when I lived in Pasadena, it was there, and it's like, and like I said, it's like when the Asian hate stuff, which has always been there, but kind of ramped up the last few years and stuff. And I've had,
let's just say it's gone in waves.
It's gone in waves, but the whole thing is, it's like, you sitting next to my wife, you're Asian. Like somebody who's filled with hate doesn't say he's Japanese, she's Korean. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, Asian, bad.
To be fair, somebody with that much hate probably don't know that the difference. They got slanty eyes. They're kind of suspicious.
Right. Well, that's it. So when the whole Chinese virus started, it's like nobody sees Biff and thinks, oh wait, I hate China because of the Chinese virus, but that guy's cool. He's Japanese. No, you're Asian. Nobody sees my wife and says,
right.
She's not Chinese. She's Korean. Wait, is she North Korean? You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Asian is Asian.
Right. Well, I mean, the classic thing of that is that when the first time when either probably you or I was conscious of this whole thing is back in the 80s, when there was a lot of flack against the Japanese and how the auto industry was hurt by the Japanese cars. And this guy who lived in like some Detroit or some kind of somewhere in Michigan, was beat up by a bunch of angry auto workers and was killed. And that dude was a guy of Chinese descent. Nothing to do with the current problem.
No. But hey, you
look the part.
You're a round-eyed or you're not a round-eyed. Which, by the way, okay, I'm gonna throw it out there. Management got into a little bit of something on Facebook the other day because I don't know if it was a friend or a friend or a friend, or somebody on like one of her Duran Duran groups went out to a Chinese restaurant and got the round-eyed service.
Okay.
Which she meant by that is she lamented that they were serving the people without round, and she's like, you've met me. I thought you can maybe you want to dial that back. And it was, you know what racist people hate the most, other than racist, other racists, is being told they're a racist. And no matter how nicely you say, it's like, hey, you might want to rethink that statement. It kind of, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, double down. And she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna block this person and tell the admin. It's like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable on your group with somebody saying something overtly. Of course, she's smart enough to take the screen grabs before it comes off of there. So
of course, yeah.
So she deals with that this week, a minor inconvenience, and then you turn around and you see a mass shooting in your backyard, and you're like, yep, that's. But hey, I want to change focus. So for a number of time, since last summer, my really great friend John and Austin, I was driving to Cleveland, said, yeah, I don't know how he found the podcast Complaints and Observation, because
Yeah.
He said something like it's like listening to you and Joe. He's like he's half you, he's half Joe, you know. And it was one of those things
I'm
where
sorry. At least for my half, but okay.
I'm driving through. No, this is going back. He goes,
Right.
he's like, and it was one of those. The boys are out, and I end up like powering through like 5 or 6 of this guy's episodes. You know, and then I had like a road trip. When management came home from London with COVID, and the boys and I do another road trip down to DC to see Professor Salowich. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to catch up on 2 or 3 more of these guys. So I listen to the guy's podcast. We go back and forth on Twitter all the time. And what's funny, and on his podcast, he always says, you know, I think one time, you know, I said something like, you know, we were having the discussion. It's like, what's the difference between when does grave robbing become archaeology? Like, what is the line?
Right.
And he liked that, and we had so we go back, but he doesn't know who's
The answer is always.
Oh, right. Thank you.
I mean,
right.
Archaeology is always great. You know, if you're looking for archaeological stuff in a grave, you're grave digging. I don't care what you say.
Right. You know, and it's like, because I think, man, it's like, you know, Lowell has all these tiny little family plots around here. I'm thinking, I'm just gonna dress up like Indiana Jones and say I'm an archaeologist. And it's like, hey, no, this is
look at this archaeological find. 18th century gold necklace I found on some woman, Beatrice Edwards. I'm gonna have it appraised at the local pawn shop to see if it's of any archaeological quote, you know, significance.
So because and I think management put that in my head years ago, and I've not let go of that. It's like, yeah, that's why she's smarter. Anyways, so the guy Dave, you know, and I do his shit cracks me up. He has the self-loathing of Joe. And the unwarranted confidence of me. You know, I mean, he's well aware, you know, when he's out of his depths on things, but charges full head onto it like I do. But at the same time, halfway through, it's like, why am I talking about this? So it is. It's a fun listen. Well, he's fucked up, and he keeps asking people to dial in. He's like, he has a phone line just for people to call. So I've been leaving messages that he plays unedited through. And it's like, dude.
Yeah, I should start. You know, so I do follow him on Twitter, but I do need, like I said, I just have no time to do anything. So
because I'm in the car so much and with the boys, like because of the stand up. Once a week, I'm going out to Worcester, an hour each way. Once a week, I'm now going up to Manchester, New Hampshire, like a 45-minute thing each way. So you know, I'll be honest. It's like I've dropped off some other podcasts that I used to love, you know, that are still great, like you know, Conan and Smartless. I'd rather listen to somebody who's talking about shit that I know, you know what I mean? And all of his stuff hits home. So, but yeah, so I've left. But one of the things is because I run the CP Twitter thing, he's like, and he listens to podcasts. He goes, I don't know if this is Joe or Biff, and I keep meaning to break it down. It's like, okay, so Biff is the grown up with a real job, with a, you know, a education.
I got the real job, but I mean, I don't know.
No, look, you know, Japanese national who falls in love when his dad takes him to Toronto when you're 11 to play hockey. Then you go to Hawaii, then you go to Caltech. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's like when I was telling my friend Mike that you were on the podcast, I'm like, dude, sometimes he does these projects where the client is 4 hours to the east, you know, time zone, but the back end tech is being done 14 hours behind, you know, going west. And we will be driving across to go to Phoenix, you know, and here it is a Sunday night at like 1 a.m. And Biff's like, oh crap, I got to get to the hotel and set up because I got to get about 4 hours of work done, you know. So that's Biff. And so you know, and you know, let's be honest. When I say you're the grown up out of the 3 of us, it's not saying a lot.
It's true. It is true.
You know,
let's reset our standards here.
You know, so you're the grown up. You know, you got your shit together. You got, you know, the house for a long time. You're the cook. All this stuff. You know, you are. You know, on one hand, you know, you are the quintessential cog that makes the John Taylor Fertilizer Hockey Incorporated Limited LCD run. Without you, that doesn't exist. Without John, it doesn't exist because of the name.
Right.
You know, the name. Everything else falls on your shoulders. And then there's Joe, who honestly, when I met him and he was like 16 going on 60, it's like,
Right,
how
right.
how the hell do you know what the show of shows is, you little fuck?
Right, yeah.
He's kind of the quiet-ish one, but it's like those still waters run deep. And honestly, there are some times I walk upstairs and management is like, do I have to listen this week? It's like, why? It's like, you are howling. You were absolutely howling for the last 3 hours. And it's because Joe just says stuff that honestly, management is funny. You were funny.
Yeah.
John Taylor's funny. I'm in a circle with lots of comedians now doing stand-up. Nobody on this planet makes me laugh more and harder than Joe. And so many times I'm watching a movie with management and she just turns to me and goes, you wish Joe was here instead, don't you? And I'm like, no, because there's a reference that the two of us would just stupidly get. So to answer Dave's question, who's who? I'm the loud one who doesn't do anything except has time to be on the social media during the day because I have time to listen to his podcast because I have to drive the boys from point A to point B and wait there for an hour for them to do whatever and come out. So I drive to jiu-jitsu. While they're doing when they're grappling, I'm watching. I'm full on, but yeah, I don't need to watch them doing their planks. You know what I mean? And their side crawls and stuff. So that's when I'm on Twitter. So I have the time. So I'm the loud, obnoxious one. But Dave opened it up. He gave the phone number, and some of the calls he got a wrong call. He got a wrong number calling a couple of weeks ago.
My God, that's awesome. That's the best.
It was the best. One of his friends' mom called. So it's called Complaints and Observation. He wants you to call in with complaints.
Yeah.
Whether it's tea related because the tea, he takes a tea like a couple weeks of work. I'm hoping to get him guests. I put out a feeler to Sally the other day, who, by the way, I mean, I was talking to her recently.
Can we actually do this, bit where we actually kind of within our regular podcasting schedule during that time, each one of us will call in at least once into their podcast.
Oh, 100.
And then we'll talk about what that call
was. The best part of the last writer strike. The best part about the last writer strike is Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, and Conan every single night being each other's guests, back and forth the whole time. And I thought that I'm like, you know what? It's like, Dave should, it's like, oh, Biff can't do it this week. Let's call Dave and see if he can fit it. Oh, I can't do it. Or if I can't be here, you know what I mean? It's like, oh man, that'd be great. Like I said, somebody else also cut from dude, you have way too much confidence for somebody who shouldn't cloth it up, and his self-awareness is brilliant. But like I said, so I called in. It was funny. But anyways, moving on. But that's great. I do. I tell people all the time. It's like, yeah, Smartless is great, but I'm never going to meet any of those people. I don't have a ton in common with them. I like their movies or I like this, but this guy's talking about stuff that we talk about and from a different angle. Totally smart guy. It's great. I mentioned stand-up. So stand-up is going interesting, Biff, but it's on one hand, it's going great. It's absolutely going great because from every 2 or 3 weeks, I see growth. You know what I mean? I'm either more comfortable. I fuck something up, but I absolutely am still able to tie in the next bit. You know what I mean? I'm actually,
isn't that so just listening to a lot of these comics, I mean, they talk about how there is, I think the thing that a lot of us miss is the fact that just like, and I mentioned this with Sally also, that this whole thing is really, it's a craft, right? It really is a craft. It's not, there's obviously natural tendencies that, make you good at this thing, but really it's not about just being off the cuff funny isn't enough to be a good stand-up comic. I think that's the really important thing, right? Isn't that what part of it is that you have to really try out your material and develop your material?
100%. And there's no way to do it except to do it.
Right.
There are no shortcuts,
Yeah.
And one of the problems I have is I'm trying to be in the gosh, let me take that back. The people I look up to are the Patton Oswalts, the Jim Gaffigans, Um,
Right.
the Lori Kilmartins, Megan. Well, what is her last name? Oh, Louis Black's friend. Smart people
Right.
who I mean, they'll tell a dirty joke, but they
Right.
don't have to get graphic and awful. Now I said that when I saw Patton a year ago, he had a whole 20-minute bit about filling a barn with clown pubes that was so
Okay.
hurtfully funny. Like the premise is just so absurd and but it's a smart bit. But the problem is I go and I do these, like I like to call them the Proud Boys punching down comedy hour, where it's guys who kind of look a little bit like me, look exactly like me, heavy, from mid 20s to late 30s, generally speaking, very comfortable using the R word, very comfortable using the F word, very comfortable just starting off a set. And it did. It's like, um, I I thought I was going up next. I hit record on my thing. I didn't realize I didn't on, and then I was like, listening back, and management got to hear it. And this one guy, like, in the first like 30, 45 seconds, just went from a homophobia joke to a misogyny joke to and it's like
Yeah.
and it's awful, and it's like they're
Yeah.
trying to be 90s shock comic, um, but more gross. Just
Yeah.
like, and look, is a diarrhea joke funny? Yes. Is a dick joke funny? 100%. But if that your whole material, and at least a third of the people are like, oh my God, I got so high today. Woo! Because half the people there, 2/3 of the people
Yeah.
there are
Sure.
complete stoners. And then it's like, oh dude, I literally forgot what I was gonna say because I'm too high. And that gets the biggest laugh of the night. And it's fine and it's funny and people are trying. But like when we had Jim What, JimWhat.com on a couple weeks ago, a few episodes ago, and he's doing cruise lines and he's doing, he's going to have some young kids in his audience to grandmas, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to be the Catskills, everybody's comic, but I'm not trying to, get up there and talk graphically about sexual conquest, getting high or, constantly. Like I have a bit about how I used to drink and drive, and how stupid it was and blah, blah, blah. And you'll see it. But, not smarter stuff, but not. So it's tough because I have to sit there for like 2 hours and just hear people punching down at the most marginalized people and thinking, who is this
Yeah.
funny to? But there's no other place to practice except
Right.
at these places. It is the way it is. And then,
It is interesting that, like, part of it makes me think that, like, these are people who actually normally live in that certain echo chamber, right?
right,
Where what they're saying is completely normal and okay, right?
right.
And then now, now they're thinking, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this other thing that I wanted to do, and then suddenly they're bringing their echo chamber to, like, the
To
populace
this.
in general, right?
And the
So
people like this one place I'll go tomorrow with our friend Matt, the mortician kid who's been on, and he's a funny guy. And it's the two of us, and there'll be like 5 or 6 other guys. 90% they said the same thing the week before, but they're just trying to ratchet up either the misogyny aspect of it, So in one of my bits, like I say, oh, I have a cousin from Revere, who's a whore. And everybody laughs because it's a, but then I'm like, yeah, that guy will bang everything. So the whole joke isn't, a misogyny joke or a women or whore, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like kind of like a misdirection thing
right,
where I'm like,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean? It's like when I talk about, family stereotypes, and it's like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm a white guy. I'm so white. I actually like the way white girls dance, and then I talk about,
yeah.
like that kind of stuff. But what was interesting is I have a show the end of February in front of real people back at that place that I did it last month with Greg
Okay.
Bogus, who was on the
Greg,
show.
yep, yep, yep.
And so it's tough because when I'm going to these open mics, that's who I'm performing for. They're not there. The only people there are late 20s, early 30s stoners who want to talk about how women who are 50 shouldn't dye their hair because it's over for them. You know, one guy's whole bit is a 5-minute bit, shorter than me, 50 pounds heavier than me. I don't think he's had a date like this millennia, but he has strong opinions on parenting, no kids, and strong opinions that this is the punchline to his 5-minute bit. If 50-year-old women who color their hair, if you don't produce eggs anymore, your head shouldn't look like an Easter one. Gets a huge laugh every time from the incels. And I'm like, well, let's see. My management colors her hair all the time, fun colors. She's 50, and she just spent the last year going to 4 different countries, to see a band. She might be the coolest person I know. I mean, I married 9 levels up, and it's like this guy, like, he could not comprehend how cool anyway, so like I said, I have to sit in a room with that.
Really, I mean, listen, I mean, you're telling me that freaking, if you happen to say, hey, I don't know, sing for the B-52s, that maybe they should color their hair because they've probably been over 50 for at least 15 years, right?
Exactly.
Come on, what a dumb,
huge laugh.
Idiotic, premise, right? But whatever.
But anyway, so that is the tough thing about doing it. It's like I'm just in a room with people, and it's funny because I did a set at a coffee house, and it was pretty good. I mean, it was actually, but the guy who went on, the funny thing is, I have this bit about I don't understand how all children aren't only children. Having been in the room to witness the miracle of childbirth and seeing the crime scene that my son's left behind, and again, always the best jokes are always from Joe. It's like, look, I learned to love my kids, but the smell that's created during the childbirthing process lingers with you the first couple years. And so the next guy, right, it's right. And then I go on to explain, it's like, you can't explain it, but let me try. And then I have a funny analogy of how bad it is. Anyways, well, I think it's funny, and people think it's funny. The next guy up, his first thing is like, so Jacques, what's up with your wife's cunt that it's so stinky? It's like, dude, it's like, and it's like, right, that's exactly what the joke was. Like, oh, you nailed it, buddy. You got me. And I'm like, and the whole room was kind of like, it was a coffee place. You know what I mean? There was a lot of ULOL college students there. It was a fun place. And he did not get a laugh. Like, his whole set was that. Now, at these other open mics, he would have killed with that. But that's the whole thing. It's like, no. So if I do that bit next month, probably a third of the people in that room either have had kids or have been in the room when kids are, being born. You know what I mean? And I do. I say, one of the punchlines is, I think my wife wanted me in the room to witness a miracle of birth because, with my smartphone, I videotape what I call the miracle of contraception. So it's like, but that's like, that's not a punching down joke. That's not this. It's not, but that will work in a room like that. But when I'm working on the timing and the cadence in front of like the incel Proud Boy Light, man-hating women club, it's like
Proud Boy Light.
Oh, no, I don't think they're actually going out to the meetings, but I think when they see it on OAN, they're kind of giving a thumbs up.
I would have gone, but I had to work that day.
How many hockey players have we played with who are almost going to go to the show, but they hurt their knee in college? It's akin to that. Yeah. But what's funny?
Okay, well, let's move on. We've been on this for like 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Let's wrap it up.
Movies. I text you and Joe the other day because I have the kind of time, and man, I think it was the night. It was a last minute thing that management went out to the painting thing with Renetsky. I didn't, Joe didn't have a chance to come over. So here I have extra time on my hand. There's so many movies and TV shows to get caught up on. I decide to watch Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. And I text you, and I'm like,
fine film. I don't know. I mean, it's just one in a series. Yeah. So okay.
And then you tell, and here I was thinking it was an off-brand thing. It's like, how Hammer Films used to do, Dracula movies or Frankenstein movies with a different kind of Frankenstein. I'm like, no, wait, this is actually them. It was awful.
Bottom line is that
awful.
Those costumes cost a lot of money. They're really expensive to make. So if there's somebody in one of those Godzilla costumes, it's the genuine thing.
It's funny because I just recently found notes from like 1989, 1987, 97 when I was doing stand-up in LA. And one of my bits was about how worried my mom was that I'm moving to California and there's always earthquakes. I'm like, you always have snowstorms. Tokyo's always destroyed by Godzilla. I mean, no matter where you live, there's gonna be things to deal with. So I don't know how many times Tokyo has been destroyed in Godzilla movies, but looking at my notes, every time.
And that's the thing, right? When you're able to survive a massive world war like World War II and have, places just, bombed down, they recover quickly. They just know how to do it now.
That engineering. Have you seen the movie The Menu yet?
I have not. I have heard about it. This is the one where it's kind of like this. There's an exclusive thing where you can only certain people can get in, but then once you're in, there's some these whatever other wackiness, and that's the actual.
Okay, because you're more of a foodie guy. I thought you might have seen it by now. So we'll put a pin in it and circle back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's one of those. You have to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Right, yeah.
It's on a small island, like a mile off the coast. But it was interesting. So I'm bummed that Joe's not here because one of the other things I was watching the other day.
Yeah.
I was watching one of these behind the scenes thing with the Avengers,
Okay.
and I videotaped like the 8-second clip and I sent it to Joe, and Joe was like, "That's awesome." It was two of the writers, two of the architects of the MCU. And how methodically it was planned out. It's like, we're going to introduce these characters, but at one time we're going to have to put them all in the soup bowl together. So we established who Thor is. We established, and I swear to God, one of the two writers is like, we're old enough to remember when the Love Boat docked at Fantasy Island. We're old enough to remember when Magnum PI was on Simon and Simon. And it's like, wait a minute. Those are the same worlds, and it's like it was a 2-part series where the first part was Fantasy Island and the second part was Love, and they're like, that's what they used as their justification when they were like in their heads, like, okay, how would they all wind up here? Now that we've established the standalone Thor, the standalone Captain America, the standalone, we introduced Iron Man, and we've hinted about the Black Widow. How do we? And the fact that they used that was their flashpoint. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think the MCU could speak to me on a deeper level than it has.
Okay.
And like I said, that was one of those moments where management looks at me and goes, "You wish Joe was here to share this, don't you?" No, I'm happy you're here. This is great. Speaking of Phoenix, this past week while Renesky was in town, because she's a workout gym rat, and my little guy is like been saying, "Hey, when are we going to the gym more?" My Phoenix training has started.
Oh, it started. Yeah, I should start that too.
I can't skate. I left my gear at Renetsky's house in LA, but it's like I have a methodical plan, and not next week. Maybe the week after, probably not, but most likely the week after that is when I will start the plyometric stuff.
Okay.
So because what was 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, the first game or the second game, I caught a rut by the Zamboni door. And it was like 98% of my body turned east to west. And 5% it says, "You're staying here, motherfucker."
Yeah.
And it's never been right since. So when I do certain things, so I have to get but it started. And I did. I've not resolutions, but my goals for this year. One of them is to win a goddamn game. I don't care if we have to drop 9 levels down. I don't care if we have to drop 9 levels down.
Our last tournament was actually okay, because we were competitive in most of those games.
And most of those games, but still a goose egg,
Yeah, whatever.
And with the talent on this team, it's like, wait, how many of these motherfuckers the Friday before have an 8-point night? And a night when a goalie played good. You know what I mean? They had 8 points, but the goalie still made 50 saves. They get out to Phoenix, and it's crickets. So I want to have a plus minus in each game and have a point in each game. That's my goal.
Be a plus in each game, game. You don't want to be on when the goals are let in. I see. Whatever.
No.
Okay.
I don't. I want to be part. I want to be part of the people keeping the goals out of the net, and not part of the guy saying, "Oh, come on, Biff. It was only a 3-on-0. It was only the 4th rebound." Hey, well, I was standing from the.
I will accept any come on Biffs as long as you're not trailing the other team forward as you're yelling
exactly. If I'm standing at the red line telling you how you should have had that ankle covered, look, from my vantage point on the other side of the rink, I could see you didn't come over fast enough.
Yeah.
But that's my goal. But it is it's absolutely started. So that's the fun stuff. We're not going to get too political for too long, but has the shit show in the House been what you expected so far? We're a couple weeks.
I mean, yes and no, right? There's so obviously the Santos thing that thing is a holy cow, right?
We'll circle back to that. That's next. Yeah. But as a whole,
I mean, I guess to the extent that and we had a little bit of that with the Democrats also, right? Where it's like AOC led a bit of a revolt against the House leadership to some degree, right? But I think the nature of that just seems very, very different than what happened with the McCarthy confirmation hearings, right? I mean,
there were some members of the squad when they first came in, in November and December, were making noise. But Nancy, ever the politician, by the time they took the first vote, it was all figured out. And it took one vote to get her in. Like, did they bring up good points? Yes. That they also have, one of the problems with the squad, and I just saw this recently, like the 5 worst people on the GOP, it's also kind of like the squad, and so much as like they're extremists. And members of the squad have pretty much voted, and sometimes against things that they're for, because it didn't go far enough. Like there was a couple years ago, there was some bill that was 98-2 in Congress, and one of the 2 holdouts was Bernie Sanders, and it was like, it was an environmental thing.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And Bernie held out only because he was 100% for what the bill said, but it didn't. It wasn't binding. Like it was we're going to vote on this thing that has no teeth to it. Yeah. And he, as a he knew it was going to pass, but as a protest candidate, he's like. But there's been times when the squad has said, yes, we're 100% for money for baby formula, but we want $1 trillion, not $1 billion. So we won't vote for $1 billion unless you raise it to this, But as far as they go, never since before the Civil War is the last time it took more than like 1 or 2 votes. Dude, how many times would you try to ask somebody out and they say no before you're like, okay, on the 14th time, I get it, I'm moving on. I mean,
well, I guess this is where, say what you will about that party. They usually have that kind of stuff together, right? That kind of stuff they usually have together from the standpoint of they have their constituents in line. They have their politicians in line. That's what say what you will about how they do things. They always have, and this is where it was really, really shocking. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, right? I don't know if that means that, is that going to change like the way that party runs, because this is a new direction that they're establishing, because they certainly don't have the kind of controls over all of their, their members the way they used to, right? So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
And the fact that he had to negotiate down. I mean, literally, he has as much say as like Prince William does for the policies of Great Britain right now. It's complete. Yeah. He made himself a complete figurehead.
You could literally see how compared to and I'm not a Nancy Pelosi fan, but I 100% acknowledge the fact that she was really, really, really good at her job, right?
Right.
I mean, and it's very, very, very clear that McCarthy will not be very good at his job, because he's already shown right at the point of being elected the speaker, he showed his ineptitude there, right? So
and a couple times he's like, we have the votes, take it back to the floor. And then when one Republican tried to get at Matt Gaetz, like literally had to be like choked back, who was trying to attack. It was brilliant. But that's one of those things. It's like, yeah, that's what it's going to be for the next 2 years.
And we'll see, right?
We'll
just see what happens. I mean, it's just I don't know if anything's gonna happen in that.
I mean, it's funny because they're going to have all these investigations by Jim Jordan, JYM, and any day that George Clooney documentary is going to drop, which is going to be fun. But then, the whole thing is like, yeah, Jim Jordan, you're head of the Judicial Committee. You're going to be heading up these investigations. You ignored a House subpoena. Why would anybody come if you subpoena anybody? Like, why would Hunter Biden come in and talk to you when you didn't come in and talk about this? And that's the whole thing. It's like, all the shit that you've done the last couple years. Now that we're going to have these investigations. No. Anyway, so that's going to be interesting.
Well, you can have the investigations, right? How the investigations are useful is a different story altogether.
And now on the Homeland Security Committee.
Yeah, MTG, right? Yeah.
Right. A woman who says 9/11 was an inside job, who was part of the insurrection, is now head of Homeland Security. It's just good. But okay, now Santos, as of the recording of this, just today, he said, "Yeah, that was me." The drag queen, because footage came out. Yeah. There was pictures all week, and it kind of looked photoshopped. It's like, yeah, that looks like him, but that's not really him. Well, then video emerged in like the last 24 hours, and it's like, which you don't care. I don't care. But members of his own committee have been working, or his party have been working.
Well, he ran on an anti-LGBTQ, stance, right? I mean, he was that whole. Whatever, you could call it, some kind of, some religious, whatever you want to call it. In the end, it's really just anti-LGBTQ, just a kind of it's a stance of hate, right? I mean,
when my parents accidentally, and I mean that, accidentally took my boys to the drag show, I don't want to call it a drag show, it's a Tony Award-winning play, Kinky Boots, but about a drag person.
Right.
And I told my dad, it's like, yeah, your party's trying to make it illegal to take children to drag shows. And he was laughing. And then I showed him the article. I'm like, no, they've actually submitted bill to come out onto the floor, making it child abuse. But enough of
the Santos lie is so ridiculous that it's actually made my country's news. So they because it's such a funny thing, it's just made the news today.
Well, the thing is, it's like the crazy stuff that again, everybody that we've played hockey with, most of the people we played hockey with in 30 years in LA, play 2 levels higher than they actually did when they tell their stories. Right. You know what I mean? Like, look, All-Star Tommy. Yeah, here's a picture of All-Star Tommy I have on my wall tying up Adam Oates at Yale. But somebody else who played at Harvard, it's like, yeah, you played JV at Harvard, but you didn't, and all this stuff. But for him to say he was a volleyball star, collegiate volleyball star at a school he didn't even go to, which
they had. So the Japanese thing, it was hilarious because they had this whole thing where they assembled the different claims that he had during the thing. So he goes, he he claimed that he worked for Goldman Sachs, and then they do the boom, this was a lie. This is like one of those graphics where they throw in lie kind of a thing right into just like one of those TMZ-ish whatever I don't one of those lame
with the sound effect coming in
boom,
the anvil sound.
Like, oh my god!
And that's the thing. It's
a complete mockery out of this. It's fantastic.
When I got out to LA in the mid '90s and started playing hockey, and guys are like, "Oh, I played high school back." Like, you can tell, okay, this guy hasn't played in 15 years.
Yeah.
But the puck went here and he went there. Like you don't lose. Right. Do you lose your hands? Yeah. Do you lose your legs? Sure.
Yeah.
But by the second or third shift, you're like, yeah, he played junior varsity. Yeah, you know what? This kid played high school at one point. Yeah. Or like, somebody who's come out, like I said, who hasn't played in like 10, 15 years. It's like, dude, in about 2 weeks when the rust comes off, this guy's going to be a pain to cover, but everybody, but for him to come up with the things that he's come up with, like, not like, oh, I played volleyball in college. Oh, I was the star of the team. Well, I lettered in this. Oh,
I guess though. I mean, and look, I don't know how like a lot of this stuff, how this, and I don't know because a lot of these things came out after he was candidate, right? These are things he made as claims after he became a candidate.
Right.
So I don't know what kind of pre-screening they did during the whatever, just where, because I figure that there has anybody can run for any position and then claim to be under any party, right? It's an open thing. But you think that somewhere along the line, somebody at the party will say, well, we'll just, we'll check these people out because these are the leading whatevers, and then just make sure that, we're not going to deal with garbage later. Right? You think that, they would do that check, and, maybe they don't because it's Florida. I don't know.
No, it was New York. He's New York.
Oh, New York. I'm sorry. No, that's right. I'm thinking completely different thing. Was he from Florida?
But the line, it's like the before McCarthy's vote is even taken, he puts out a press statement saying how he was sworn in today and it was a great honor. It's like, dude, no one's been sworn in. No one's been sworn in. It was like 4 days later people got sworn in, but yet he went ahead and some people are like, well,
I was into the building.
It's like, oh my God. But his statement is like, when I put my hand on the Bible and I swore to, blah, blah, and it's like, oh my. Then he flashes the white power thing while he's giving a vote at one point. It's like, and then the funny thing is the first couple days during this chaos, no one's talking to him. He's standing alone. He's trying to get in conversation. But dude, he flashes the white power thing, and then literally the next day, he's buddy with Matt Gaetz and not Boebert, but Martin Green. Like they're sitting next to each other laughing. Like that's all it took to get in. It's like, I'm gay. I'm Latino.
He decoded the code.
I'm all this stuff. But you know what? As long as I'm a gay Latino who hates gays and Latinos, I'm gonna get, but let's get back to the shit shows over Japan. I was actually able to look at the clip that you posted.
Yes. So the reenactment.
All good.
Police walks in and sees a yellow body. I know it's kind of funny that a Japanese broadcast would make the body yellow because we all know that the body would be yellow, but
thank you for saying it. Literally, thank you for, because when I saw that,
I know it's in your mind, and I know that anyway.
Dude.
Regardless,
right?
So, but the point of the whole thing is so obviously a woman, I think in her 40s, there's a report of an incident of a woman in distress. They go to the house. They found the woman. She's dead. She's in her 40s, and nothing funny about any of that, and nothing whatever about any of that, really. But there was a reenactment of the police entering the building. Like that was important.
That was big.
That was like, police enters the room. There's a body on the floor, and they have to reenact that in their little funny graphics. I don't know why they have
because I couldn't. and then the person on the streets interview.
Various interviews, right? You're wondering why they were interviewing random people on the street.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So it actually is because the alleged killer is the woman's 9th grade daughter, and apparently the motive had to do with the use of cell phones. And so they were interviewing people on the streets about what their current essentially rules regarding their kids' cell phone usage is. And you saw a wide variety of responses, and the responses are just not important at all. The bottom line is, all you people having these little, fantasies about these, geisha girl Japanese women that are subservient to you, just know that they're willing to kill over cell phone usage. I'm just going to put it out there. All you people with these fantasies, that's not how it works.
No, I do. It's a serious crime for once, but I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Like those little reenactments.
Cell phone usage murder by a child.
Oh,
that's the kind of murder that happens in Japan.
Yeah, a 6-year-old coming to school and shoot a teacher last week here. So, no, but thank you. And every time the clip actually plays, I'm like, I'm in.
Great, right?
I don't fucking care what this is. I'm watching it to the end.
One of the things I've done is I don't do search the clips too early, because that's what's happened many times. So,
it gets pulled. So I we don't have jokes. I'm gonna go back and throw in a self-indulgent theater here.
We want to go to a defunct sponsor, or do you have a self-indulgent thing you've been planning on surprising me with all week?
I have no plans whatsoever. Do you want to improv something or toss something at me quick?
Yeah. How have you ever done a Don Adams versus Don Knotts rap battle?
No,
Could you do a freeform rap battle between Don Knotts and Don Adams? And go.
All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights, and I'll glow. To the extreme, I walk a mic like a vandal, light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle. Dance to the speaker that booms. Poison your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly, when I play a dope melody, anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it, you better gain weight, you better hit bullseye, or the kid won't play. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the beat while my DJ revolves it. I don't know. Is that it?
I literally, this is the last podcast because you just touched the sun. You just touched the sun.
I did it.
Not a dry eye in the house. No video game because, the only video game I played Resident Evil with Renetsky last week. Moving on.
You hear about my Excel?
Please, wait. Bejewel, do you play Yahtzee on the phone?
I do not play Yahtzee.
Do you play anything on the phone when you're watching hockey games, or you're watching the games intently?
I'm actually sometimes doing stuff on the computer where I'm doing other searches or whatever, but usually not I don't play a game on the on a device while watching a game.
Because I'll do, but okay, just by the tone of what's going on, it's like, oh yeah, I'll look up now, you know what I mean, or this has happened. But speaking of, I mean, again, I'll say it for the millionth time in the last month. No one wins a cup in January, Jacques. No one wins a cup in January.
Yeah, I think to be fair though, I think the one thing about this team is that they have enough of those guys who've gone, certainly gone deep, and enough of those guys who've won it all. So I think one of the easy thing to try to do is to compare this team with the 2000 Lightning that just walked over the entire league during the regular season and then ceremoniously got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Right.
So it's easy to try to make that comparison, and I'm sure there's a lot of detractors that will. I think the difference is that Tampa team learned how to play playoff hockey, and then they became the two-time champion, three-time cup finalist team that they were. So I think that the difference is that you look at this team. If this team were led by a bunch of, say, the Taylor Halls and the Charlie Coyles,
right,
that's one thing. But then you're talking about guys, there's like the Marchand, Bergeron. Those two guys alone, I think, makes a huge difference. Plus, there's a lot of these guys went all the way to the finals in 2019. So
right, and you got Krejci.
I think it's different. Well, they had Krejci back then too. So.
No, but that's what I mean. He's been to a couple cups with them. So, and it's the same thing. And then you got the guys.
It's about the 2019 team, really. The 2019 and 2010.
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah, it was 2011. It was 2011.
Yeah, because we had guys from those two teams, I think it's very different. I think the only dangers that the Bruins have, obviously, always injuries is always a problem.
Injuries and a hot goalie on the other side.
Goalie, really, right. And the thing about it is that I think the thing that makes it different is that the teams with the hot goalies, I don't think really have enough in the East. Like, I think the team that can, well, let me rephrase that. I think Tampa is potentially right. If they somehow have that playoff magic, you never know. But I think that really the potential for the hottest goalie is the Rangers, and Rangers just don't have enough to really overpower. They're not going to win 4-1-0 games against the Bruins. It's just not going to happen.
No, and that's the thing. It's like just like the thing that is really I'm trying to manage my expectations. Yeah. They're not just winning games.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should manage.
No, but the stat that I sent the guys the other day when I saw it, that as of the other day, the goal differential for the Bruins is plus 75. The closest second place is plus 40. Almost like, and it's not like early on in the season. Like they're winning games, and it's like when they just played the Rangers last week. back-to-back on the road, and it was 3-1, but it really, like you said, the Rangers goalie played great. I mean, the Rangers scored a goal late, but that game easily could have been 5-0, 6-0, 6-1. But their goalie was great. No, but I'm not watching any NFL.
But before we move off the NHL, I do want to say one thing about how awful the Vancouver Canucks are.
Oh,
And I know you don't pay attention to the other teams, but I don't know if you know about this, but for at least about a week, we've known that Bruce Boudreau was going to get fired. And instead of just firing him and just kind of letting that be over with, the Canucks kept him on for the entire week, where it basically was clear that like their yesterday's game was going to be his last game. And and the fans love him, and the fans appreciate him. At the end, when Bruce first took over the team, the Canucks were awful. But then they went on this, torrid streak. They didn't make the playoffs, but they went on this torrid streak. And then every time they won, they did this, Bruce, there it is chant. So, at the end of their last game, the fans gave him the last, Bruce, there it is chant. And, at the post game, the reporters are going to ask him about it. And in the end, Bruce had to kind of excuse himself because, he was getting really emotional. And then finally, they officially announced that Rick Tocchet is replacing him as a coach. And it's just a crappy thing to do to a guy who is, a widely
doesn't deserve it, right?
Yeah.
We've all been fired.
Yeah.
Even if you deserve to get fired or you're getting laid off, it's still gut wrenching.
Yeah, just don't leave him in like that. Just it's happening. Just relieve him of his duties. Have the assistant take over, or some assistant take over for a few games, and then just introduce your new coaching staff. Do what every reasonable hockey organizations have done, but apparently this is too much. And of all people, Jim Rutherford, who's been in the league for how many years? Why would he do that? I just unconscionable.
No, the disrespect was pretty bad. But that I as we're recording, NFL games are going on. I haven't seen an NFL game in a couple months, and so do you have any teams alive? Are you following anything? Are you rooting for anybody?
I mean, yeah. So I think the two of the teams that I'm kind of rooting for are playing each other as we speak, because I'm Buffalo and Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is in the same division as my beloved Steelers, but at the same time, these are teams that these long-suffering fan bases, right?
Yeah.
So, and certainly, I wish them every bit of luck. I mean, just you want, well, for me anyway, I want the teams who haven't won in forever. So Kansas City, yeah, they won a couple of years ago. I mean, I don't hate them or anything, but I don't need to see them in the Super Bowl again. So those are really the teams that I think I'm rooting for at this point. The other team that I was kind of rooting for was the Minnesota Vikings, and they kind of fell apart last week. So,
Oh yeah. Some a couple epic collapses I've heard. So a couple weeks ago, our good friend All-Star Tommy had said, "Hey, check out Jesse Eisenberg's new 8-part series, Fleischman's in Trouble, on Hulu." So I watched it, and it's interesting. It was interesting.
Was there too much thinking involved?
Well, look,
there wasn't too much thinking involved.
No, it was good. It was good. There was no explosions. There was no tights and capes and people with superpowers. So
Right.
it wasn't that. It wasn't a comedy. You got to see his ass a lot. Like if you want to see his ass. This is a show for you, and it does. There's one of those shows where I just watched another movie the other day with management where it was kind of the person you're rooting against who's the bad guy. Like come the final act, it's like, oh no, they were the good guy and you were the asshole. Type thing.
Those are good. Those ones are always good. Right?
It is good. You know what I mean? It's like having gone through a divorce, myself, and it's like this and that, when I went through that, like I was really trying to, for the longest time, and even to today, it's like, when people are like, oh, I can't believe this happened. It's like, I've been good about, I see this part of it or that part of it, This wasn't portraying any of this. This was like, this person's all good. This person's all bad. And then when it comes to light that this all bad person, did some bad stuff, but here's some underlining things. And then the good guy's like, or the good person is like, well, fuck that. I don't care. I can't overlook my own bullshit to understand
Right.
his bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe that person's bullshit is because they're with but at the same time, I mean, it was interesting. It was fun. I mean, I always, I thank Batman that when I went through my thing, no kids involved, and so I'm always when you
Right.
see that in movies or in real life when I've had friends go through things later after I did, it's like, oh fuck, there's a 5 and an 8-year-old, there's a 10 and a 6-year-old, but it was a good recommendation. Then management made me watch. I'm not going to say it right. Banshees of. I can't even say it. It's this.
Sharon or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It's one of those movies where my friend Dan Cray would love it. My friend Rod would love it. Yeah, John Taylor would probably really like it. It takes place on a small island off the coast of Ireland in 1922. It's going to win every fucking award out there. Sure, the acting was great, but oh my God, it was for me horribly watching paint dry. Like it was one of those things where, it's an Irish story from 1920, so it's going to start off slow and sad and get worse.
I will say this is one of those things about, and obviously you're the perfectly wrong person to tell you this because you're completely in my camp on this, but I was really upset at the 1977 Oscars for how much I felt like Star Wars, A New Hope was disrespected, because I'm trying to remember what year, like Annie Hall or something won that year, right?
Right.
It's like who the hell watches Annie Hall, right? Who the hell watches Annie Hall for a second time, kind of a thing, right? And I'm thinking if you look at that movie, and if you look at what Oscars they won, like special effects, of course they're gonna win special effects. It was groundbreaking special effects, right? So they win all of these, like, whatever
technical
right.
achievements.
And in the end, like, who else? I mean, if you look at it now, I mean, you tell me that there was a better movie that came out in 1977 than Star Wars: A New Hope. I'd like to hear that freaking argument.
I agree, but it is. It's slow.
Right. So there is that thing, right? So,
look. There's a couple.
Those,
There's a couple great actors who give amazing performances. So there's no explosions and there's no this. So it's 100% relying on great acting and a different story. But it's like, oh my God, we're going to celebrate this movie where I don't think mental health was a thing. We're still 100 years later, so that takes place in 1922. Here it is, 2023, and like mental health doesn't. Yeah. So it's like, So here's some fucked up people on a fucked up little island doing fucked up stuff. It's slow. It's sad. The good people are put through hell and don't come out the better for it. And 2.5 hours later, I look at management. I'm like, I'm gonna watch Endgame again now. I'm gonna watch Pacific Rim now. Like I'm gonna take a shower and then I'm gonna watch stuff where things blow up and there's a person with a cape who punches bad people.
Right. There you go.
But so that's so wrapping it up. You got a parenting tip?
Yeah. If your children are old enough to do so, and they have the ability to do so, make sure that they pay for their own crap. That's what I say. And so, it's been nice that, like for this has been going on for a while, but it's nice where like my the child had some people over, and then they entertained themselves, they made their own food, they got their own food, and they paid their own pay-per-view and everything else. So yeah, just make sure that at some point you establish the fact that they're responsible for their own entertainment.
No, that's a good. So my little guy, he learned this week that what, he lives in the age of social media and he has a sarcastic dad. So be careful what you text him because he's going to use that to get a cheap laugh online. My little guy. So the spring initiative, the spring electives have started. So he's doing guitar, at school
Okay.
in the school rock band. He did that. It was great. Like in the winter festival, he played drums on a couple songs and then guitar on a couple songs, and it's great to see him go back and forth. And like and his brother played keyboards. It was I was really happy. It was they're involved in activities that aren't going to get them concussed like I was at the age. So that I'm all for it.
Well, hopefully anyway.
So this year,
you never know with drummers.
You don't.
But yeah.
You don't. But he's a big guy, who's proficient in MMA. He'll be fine. But so this year he didn't want to do it, but we're like, look, you have to have two. Like each of these things here, it's funny because he says, I'm old enough where I want to make more choices. I'm like, you are. Here's the 12 things you can choose from. I'm telling you, you're doing two. One that's Monday, Wednesday, one that's Tuesday, Thursday. They're free, they're great, they're enrichments. You're gonna do them, but you can pick which ones you do. So he picks debate, and he goes last week was the first.
Is he
time.
gonna be a master debater?
You know what? Runs in the family, man. Runs in the family. So he actually gets in the car the first day. He goes, "This was actually fun." He said it was really hard because he had to debate pro-gun. Like you know what I mean? It's
right. That's the whole idea, right?
That's the whole idea. It's like you don't you turkey. Okay, we're going to debate this, and you're for and you're against, and you might be opposite of the person. So he liked that. So he goes this past week, and he texts me. He's like, "Can you come pick me up?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "There's only two people here, and I'm one of them." Now, see, what his asshole dad texted him back was, "Well, then you better win." Pause. Or at least come in second. and you laughed and I laughed and I'm like, you know what? I'm taking a screen grab and posting this. So you got to be my parenting advice to myself is like, hey, never really miss the opportunity to use your children's suffering to get a cheap laugh online from some strangers you're never going to meet.
100%.
Well, Biff, I'm done. So I'll let you wrap it up. Bring it home.
You know what? Hey. Another week, another shooting, eh? So everybody, hey, let's just all try to stay safe. Let's just all try to not be in the line of, some unwanted bullet. We've all been through enough with all this pandemic stuff. We've been avoiding the tiny little, bug that we cannot see with our naked eye. Maybe we could try to do our best to avoid the things that we could kind of see coming, like people trying to, kill you with a gun. So yeah, nothing really. Just wishing everybody the safest 2023. And don't forget,